Hello, welcome to another season of Let's Think Outside the Box and Throw the Box Away. Today I have the pleasure of having what you call an intellectual discourse with one of the young leading legal brains in this country, Dr. Shadat Semakula. We're going to be discussing contemporary issues, including things to do with Sharia banking in Uganda, things to do with Ukraine, and things to do with the geopolitics of this country. But before we proceed, I would like to give my friend and brother an opportunity to introduce himself.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity in order to explore the contentious issues surrounding geopolitics and also to eradicate the siege of ignorance among the Ugandans and the diaspora regarding Islamic finance. It is an honor and a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. This concept of Islamic banking in Uganda is premised on the Sharia law. And if you remember, my brother and Dr. Shadat, I think I'm at the forefront of having been one of those people who is actually breaking ground in jurisprudence and as far as Islamic banking is concerned in Uganda. And I know for a fact that you have this enormous experience in this area. Tell us something that is interesting that you'd like your audience or your viewers or the academia, because you wrote the foreword to the law of Islamic banking in Uganda in terms of Sharia law. Give us something about that, Professor.
Islamic banking will be embracing a tremendous enforcement and a turning point to the economic struggles we have today in Uganda. Why? We have seen that OIC, which is the main body that opened up IIU in Uganda, they asked the government of Uganda to amend the Financial Institutions Act, and this ushered in the amendment of the Financial Act to introduce Islamic banking in Uganda. Why was that, and why was it important? They had seen economies, for example, in Middle East. They had seen the economy like in Egypt, where Islamic banking had worked very well. We saw that after the recession in England by 2007, Islamic banking never collapsed. So, in Uganda, in order to alleviate the appalling economic trends we have today, the introduction or the implementation of the act, because the bill was assented to become an act, but the irony is other convention banks do not like the implementation of Islamic banking in Uganda. Why? The issue is banks like DFCU are owned by Dutch. Banks like Century are owned by the English. Banks like Bank of Baroda are owned by Indian from 1920. A bank like Centenary are interfaith based, and they're also seen as capitalistic banks. So saying Islamic banking starting in Uganda, these banks that charge a lot of interest do not like it. I remember I've endeavored to deliver a topic on Islamic banking to the judiciary. There were some misconceptions that Islamic banking will only support Muslims. Islamic banking will also coerce and enforce others to convert or revert to Islam, which are all misconceptions. Others have abused and stated that by allowing Islamic banking, you are allowing the support of terrorism. So others have depicted, they have connected Islamic banking to be a vehicle for global terrorism. These American political ideologies, in order to surpass and also damage or character assassinate Islam. But the truth is, we are seeing Islamic banking very well successful in England. We have seen it in the Middle East. And the majority of Ugandans, you enjoy Dubai. Dubai's success economically has been because of Islamic finance. By allowing Islamic finance in Uganda, where people's property have been taken by capitalistic banks, people will be able to get money with no interest, and then it is easier to make money and the economy can prosper. A point should be noted. When you look at Mulago Hospital, the rebuilding or reconstruction now have Cancer Hospital, the Mulago Hospital. These have been done on Islamic finance. All the roads we are constructing in Uganda, worth 479 billion, these are all being catered for under Islamic finance. Why? The government of Uganda could see what I call the new colonial ideology, where Africans have been taking money with a lot of interest. They lose their political power. This could be class. We look at a country like Zambia, where China has given money, and because of interest, the country has a huge debt. The same to Kenya, the same to Mauritius and other countries. So by allowing Islamic finance, we are living what I call new modern slavery, where the capitalistic countries give money with a lot of loans, and then the African states become more beggars and they cannot proceed. That is one of a way forward to make the economy of Uganda independent, to make Ugandans better than where we are, because when you take 2 million from a bank, the interest is now around 15%, the highest in the whole world. So Islamic finance is a blessing and will also alleviate the appalling situation to Ugandans. That's why in the book of Lubogo, With an Open Eye, because when I was teaching the judiciary as a leading trainer of justices, I so much emphasized, I gave the modes of Islamic finance like Musharaka, Dharaba, where these modes of finance in details and the advantage as I explained, many are now asking me, why can't Islamic finance start? I remember also being invited by Professor Sempu and Katene in their chambers to explain more on Islamic finance. And I think that time I was accompanied by Dr. Twakasule to explore more about the dynamics of Islamic finance. The more Ugandans get to know about Islamic finance, the more they will be happy that this is another way of what I call independence. You can be independent politically, but without the financial independence, you are still under colonial ideology and you are slaves. So we want to make Ugandans independent, so that now by starting Islamic finance, then the 1962 independence will be an assurance. Minus that, we shall be under new colonial ideology, economically, socially, politically.
Professor, there are those who argue that Islamic banking is perhaps a rebuttal of the capitalism because of the so much capitalistic tendencies that have actually intruded on Africa. What is your say about that? Let me read something very small from my book, Sharia Law in Terms of Banking. The Holy Quran states that, know that the life of this world is only a sport and a pastime and an adornment and a source of boastings and of rivalry in multiplying riches. This life is like a vegetation produced whereby people rejoice in its tilt. It dries up, then becomes broken pieces of straw. So there are outlines that are core motivations behind what a human being should look for, rather than simply an amass of wealth. We are told the capitalist tendencies, as opposed to the other side, the Marxists and the communists, that capitalists intend to amass wealth. They are more like intended to profit themselves, as opposed to perhaps the other side that I'm trying to propose. What is your take on that ideology?
I think that is very clear. When you look at the Islamic scripture, it also complies with the Bible. There are so many, if you refer to Romans and Corinthians, there are some quotations which I've forgotten the numbers, but even the Bible is against what I call asar or interest. If now a good Christian, you're a good Christian, you are in conformity to Islamic banking, because Islam says interest is a haram. Even the Bible says asar, which is the same with interest, is a haram. Are clear? So the Quran says we allow trade, but we don't allow interest. Are clear? Islam supports the normative of making trade, but doesn't like interest. Why? We have seen it that all of these interests are exploitative. Imagine you taking 2 million, you end up paying 3 million. Are clear? You find that you're only working for the other person who gives you the money. If you give the history by 1893, when the Jews started creating what we call credit cards in England, 230 Jews were killed by the English. Why? They said by allowing credit cards in England and Europe, they are going to be exploitative and also they are contrary to norms of development. Clear? So many of the Jews were killed in England because of introduction of credit cards, which also had issue of interest. Remember, Islam is against exploitation. That's the main message should be understood.
Yes.
A person can make money, can make a business, can make a profit. But when you look at interest, what I call the new colonialism ideology, that with such interest, you are making the other person never to pay. For example, you pay 2 million as a loan, but the interest they put on could be even higher than the money you borrowed. You might take years and years paying the interest without even paying the principal. By that way, you might end up losing your house, your family will never go to school, others get diseases like hypertension, diabetes, name it. So Islam is trying to give back life by avoiding interest. That is the Quranic ideology. And that is it.
Interestingly, as you rightly argue, Professor, there are some of the things that come to, in terms of philosophical justification of Sharia law or Islamic banking for that purpose. And I'm not trying to confuse the two, because I know there's a difference between Islamic banking as a branch. Obviously, that is part of Sharia law, as we all know. So I'm not confusing the two. But like you rightly said, the Holy Quran has certain instigations or guidelines, as it says, that have to do with, first of all, when you are pursuing things to do with commercialization or, like you said, profit making, it should be out of motivation for genuine desire, but not simply leisure. Aspects to do with desire, but not elegancy, as it were. Aspects to do with not a mere accumulation of wealth, and I'm quoting from the book. And then aspects to do with to meet what they call legitimate needs that you rightly pointed out. And accordingly, there are certain things. The Holy Quran makes a very good allusion. I'm reading, and they're arguing that Muslims are those who stay away from what they call frivolous acts. They stay away from the pursuit or activities that are of little benefit, such as playing simple trivialities, simple deeds, or hurting one another. So I agree with you when the capitalist world tends to paint everything Islamic as though it is terroristic in nature. And that proposition is propounded perhaps by the West. And many times we have seen the Islamization. In fact, in my book called Demystifying the Fountain of Honor, one of the chapters that I argue is the Islamization of individuals, turning individuals into terrorist-like. You've seen people here who go to the bush, with all due respect, I know you have some kind of backing in terms of background, in terms of ammunition or soldier-like activities.
Let me come in there.
It's a quick one, Professor. Where they call themselves names like Salim ABCD or Abu Bakr ABCD, and yet their true names are actually Christians. And then we end up victimizing these individuals, and then end up degenerating or victimizing a whole sect of religion and alluding them to acting out acts and omissions that ordinarily would not fall within their mandate of religion. What do you say about that, Professor?
Thank you very much. In the prognosis I made regarding terrorism, I had to make history from many centuries. Others have urged that Islam promotes or Islamic jurisprudence is about terrorism. That has been a damage to Islam, because the word salam means peace. And Islam says when you kill one person, you are killing the entire humanity. It is the only whole book that has provided that evidence. Killing one person and killing the entire humanity. Islam says call people to religion with peace, not by compulsion. Are you clear? Now when you look at the history, for example, when Shaka Zulu's mother passed away, Nandi, 200 people were killed in order to put the body of Nanda on top. Are you clear? Jajako, he killed a lot of people. On the expansion of China to Mongolia, around 10,000 people were killed. These were not Muslims. When you come down to England, the IRA by 1980s, you are seeing the bombardment of Birmingham 7 and others, Hillsborough disaster, whereby the English who were Protestant fighting the Northern Ireland were killing one another. These were not Muslims. We go to Rwanda, the genocide of Rwanda. You could see that Kagame, I quote, Kagame said, no Muslim between the Hutu and Tutsi killed one another. They were seeing themselves as humans. Are you clear? Regardless of tribalism. When I go to Australia, you know very much an Australian cockroach where a guy opened up a gun and fired people in the mosque. Clear? We know very well Timothy in 2001, he bombarded a building in America, and there were allegations that this has been done by Muslims. Authorities showed Timothy was not a Muslim.
True.
We got to Sofia of Bulgaria by 1971. What happened in Sofia? They tried the anarchists to kill the Pope. These were part of the group that of Catholic fighting the Pope in Bulgaria. We move away, Lord Resistance of Uganda.
Yes.
He uses the 10 Commandments of the Bible, which I feel these are not Christian ideologies, but people are using religion to use in order to match their own demand for their political scenario. But the truth is this the true reflection of Islam? For example, if you look at the case of road resistance, the answer is no.
Good.
When even if a Muslim killed, for example, you can quote some of them, they do them as individuals. The problem is when a Christian does something, is called as Joseph taken to the court. The only way they are damaging Islam, that whatever I do as Dr. Sadat Muhammad, then every Muslim becomes a problem.
Absolutely.
We should now distinguish because for individuals from the Islamic ideology and jurisprudence.
Absolutely.
So, in that jigsaw, in order to surpass or to destroy Islamic jurisprudence, many have attached Islamic finance to terrorists. And I've given another classic example. When Nelson Mandela was fighting for liberty, civil liberties, independence in South Africa, was called a terrorist. George Washington was called a terrorist. Now at the moment they define terrorism as a person with a beard and a short trouser. Is this the true reflection? The answer is no.
Good
so
question.
It's better now to eradicate the siege of ignorance that terrorists have been set, a definition has been set by American as a superpower, that whenever you talk about terrorism, they come and occupy with the pretext of protecting you. And when they come, they never go. A classic example is Kuwait, second is Iraq, another area is Saudi Arabia. Clear? Where they know that in order, this was something that was planned by 1971. In order to be a superpower, you had to control the oil wells. So they had to make sure they come, use the annexation of Kuwait, take over Saudi Arabia, take over Libya. Now Gaddafi is killed in order to control the oil. This is something that was planned in 1971. So by that time, what USSR? On the collapse of USSR, now this opened doors for the Americans to come and take over. So this is why the so-called philosophies of conquest of terrorism are just made by capitalistic superpowers in order to come and conquer, in order to protect their economies. For example, in Libya, they are trying to create a country called Benghazi. Why? They want to control all the oil wells in Libya. Now they know geopolitics, you cannot be a superpower minus the oil. You are seeing how Ukraine war has made the West, especially Europe and America, on knees because minus that oil. So understand, the word terrorism is defined by the Americans, and it is defined when they want it. Now Mandela, you call him a father of nations and also got a Nobel Prize. So who's a terrorist? Is you don't explain.
Good question. In fact, I agree with you when you say that, because the Islamization in terms of a doctrine of torture to other individuals, our brothers and sisters, I think is a question of debate. That's the point that I make in my book of intelligent design, where I make intelligent design, the African ontological and epistemological aesthetics, where I argue in terms of convergence of religions rather than divergence of religions. So let me take you back to our major topic here. What are the 4 major principles of Islamic banking? Because this is a new thing in this country. Principle number 1 is the prohibition of payment and receipt of interest. In short, I know, Professor, you're going to mention something about that. Mutuality of risk sharing in terms of profits and losses. Prohibition in terms of investment in harmful sectors of business. And then prohibition in terms of uncertainty and speculation. I think these are tenets that are good for us as an individual. In law, I know, Professor, you're a lawyer, and you argue that once a mortgage, always a what? Always a mortgage. So we have these things that have been defeated under jurisprudence. But when you come under Sharia law in terms of Islamic banking, some of these things would never surface. So what do you say about those principles in totality?
You'll find under Islamic finance, we have different modes of finance. And I will not use so much of Arabic, but because understanding communications is the principle of whereby you make sure you are communicating and understand.
Yes.
For example, there is a model whereby you can lease. For example, you lease land, and then a given time, then you bring it back.
Yes.
Or we can agree on profit sharing. You and me make up a business, we have our money, then you do that.
Yes.
You do some business. Or at times you find that under Islamic finance, you would find that if, for example, you bought this house, you had a deposit of 200 million. The house is around 600 million, clear. So the difference was 400. Islamic Bank will give you the 400, clear.
Yes.
When they give you that money, and time comes and you cannot afford to pay that money, clear. The bank will sell that product, and then they take over. For example, this building might be even worse than 600.
Yes.
The bank will not say because now the building is around 800. No, they'll just take over the 400.
Yes.
Even if the balance is 700 million, they'll leave it to you. Clear? What they mean, they don't want you to be exploited. At times, in most of the banks of Islamic finance, you share the profit and the loss, so that the borrower is not a victim. For example, you took 200 billion or 2 billion from a bank, and the 2 billion you took from the bank, you find their challenges because you share the profit and loss. Whatever you the profit share with the bank, even the loss. That way, you'd find you'll be in a better position. Our banks today, even if you have a balance of 70 million, they will take the entire product, even if you have defaulted just 1 month or 2 months, clear?
Yes.
So this is something that when you look at the way Islamic finance works, it is very good.
Excellent.
A point should be noted.
Yes.
Islamic finance follows on whenever they give you money. For example, they give you 200 million. You cannot use the 200 million to start a marriage, a wedding. No. The money goes what I call on vacant to the crown, legally. That the money should be used for the purpose. The irony with banks are capitalistic because they want you to default. You get 200 million from the bank to start agriculture. Then the 70, you are marrying
another woman.
Comfort.
Yes.
That is the misallocation of finance, which Islam is not ready to accommodate.
Professor, tell me something about the prohibition of interest, what we call riba.
Riba.
In Islamic banking.
Now, riba would be the same of asr. As I said, both the biblical quotations and also the Quran both agree that interest is haram. Because when you read the Bible, the original Bible, people were killed, others were massacred because of trading, involving interest. Yes. So Islam is just inculcating what has been there before,
absolutely,
both from Quran and also from the Bible.
Very good.
Riba is something that is prohibited, and one of them is interest.
Yes.
To Islamic jurisprudence, a person taking riba is equivalent almost sleeping with your mother.
Wow, excellent. Did you hear that? Something interesting again, Professor. I would like you to explore something to do with musharak, the partnership based on what they call partnership.
That one I talked about partnership, working together. That's
yes.
what I told. Under the partnership, both of you share the loss and you share the profit. Whereby you get money, the two people start. It'll be it's similar to normal trade, but for Islam, when you get money, you open up a business and you are partners in that business, and you're responsible for the loss and profit as both partners.
Another interesting concept that I found in Islamic banking is what they call the halal product concept.
The halal product concept.
And it is something that I think most people are encouraging us to do in Uganda today.
Yes.
I also been seeing handouts and leaflets from different people, even advocates, by the way, acting as almost proxies of halal. Please help us comprehend that on a practical part.
Halal is more of trading in items or products that Islam has permitted. So Lubogo, you don't tell us you are coming to Islamic finance and you are going to open up a Poco joint. We shall not finance that. You are going to open up an alcohol bar. We shall not support you. Anything that Islam permits to trade is something that even in their life, Islam has allowed or permitted to trade in.
Yes.
Anything that, for example, you cannot tell me you want to get a loan from Islamic bank to start gambling.
Yes.
That one will not be permitted under Islamic finance.
Absolutely. So in short, you're saying Islamic banking is something good for this country. It is something premised on ideals and fashioned on principles of morality. Morality, so that we can follow as it was supposed to be. I know Uganda, we have, I think, one bank so far now.
Yeah, one bank is starting.
Yes.
We are after the center now.
Finance Trust Bank.
Yeah, and Finance Trust Bank has started.
Yes.
And also there is what we call microfinance under the Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
Which has similarity to that.
So
also the other mechanism is Hijaz. We have also opened up Hijaz, which will be also similar to Islamic finance. It's a circle, you can put your money there, it will work under Islamic finance. And the chair is Al-Haji Dr. Kalisa Muhammad. And we have other stakeholders, chair, vice chair, I think. The vice chair is, I think, Professor Katerega and others.
Yes.
And it is a very big organization, and we call all other Muslims and other Ugandans to join Hijaz. It is another way, it is a symbol, a reflection of Islamic finance.
Excellent.
Otherwise, the Speaker of Uganda, Anita Amongi, has also tabled it. They want to see actualization of Islamic finance. But as I told you, the most impeders are these foreign banks who have come to make profit through interest, like DFCU, Bank of Baroda, Central Bank, because all these are foreign-owned banks. And why I call Uganda to support Islamic finance? No country can be liberated out of the financial trends minus having their domesticated banks. The more you have foreign banks, then you pay huge, because they have to also to pay the insurance, they have to pay for the license in Uganda. That's why our interest is very high. By allowing Islamic finance, you reduce the burden of the capitalistic, what I call new colonial ideology of the West. Then you'll be liberated economically, you'll be able to prosper financially, and with the grace and the blessing of God, then you don't even suffer from other diseases. Because what kills people now are loans. Mothers divorce so much in families. People are getting diseases. Pressure is very high. You find people speaking to themselves in roads because of psychosis. And this psychosis could only be, at times there's what I call, there is a disease that is also emanating because of this capitalist ideology. And many of them are suffering. Banks have taken their property, divorce has taken place, children cannot go to school, and then you took money to empower you, but you find that the little money too has taken even the little you had saved before. This would be a blessing. Allow Islamic finance. I've given countries like Dubai, GCC states, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, all these countries which they have Islamic finance, their economies are working very well. And in England, Islamic finance is working very well. In Canada, it has started. The USA, it has started. So Uganda should also join
and embrace it.
And embrace Islamic finance in order to liberate Ugandans from agriculture, those who are bringing maybe forex bureaus,
yes,
those doing agriculture,
yes,
any business,
yes,
and Islam will be able to finance. I was given an example, the best blessing, the cancer hospital has been financed by Islamic finance, the Mulago hospital has been financed by Islamic finance. I told you that, but around to estimate of $480 billion
yes,
of the roads in Uganda have all been financed under Islamic finance.
Excellent.
The government knows the advantage, but they are only denying the few to also get the advantage.
I think what we're doing today is also to enlighten the nation about the purpose of Islam as a creed. Actually, I look at it as, I think if you've heard of a guy called Dr. Aslam one time wrote a book called Jesus of Nazareth, the Zealot, and he was on CNN for a long time, and they actually banned him, but he has a degree in the New Testament, he has a master's in the New Testament and a PhD in the New Testament. And his argument, he was arguing, he said, why do you prefer Islam to Christianity? His argument was that, you see, Islam provides me better metaphors to reach to God than the other one. And he says, I don't deny the existence of the Bible or Jesus for that purpose, because he made allusion. I said, actually, you can even correlate that Jesus in the Bible, there are scriptures that indicate that, oh, you're talking about Jesus the carpenter, the brother of so and so. So he made those allusions. So our argument here is not to cause division in terms of, believing, because divisions and these stories of religions can actually cause diversions, and people can misunderstand. Way back in some countries are fighting over being Catholics, others are being Protestants, others are being born again. So we're talking about convergences, things that are going to promote our nation. Listen, not many people know that actually even today in Namugongo, we go for this Uganda matters, those things of Namugongo, where we go for the shrines and stuff like that. Do you know that actually there are more Muslim matters in Namugongo than even Catholics and Protestants combined together?
In fact, that is very good. Let me highlight that one. Islam came to Uganda by 1830. By 1877 and 1879, we see the Brother Hamad is coming to Uganda and Lubogo, and the Church Missionary Society coming to Uganda. Among them also was Lubogo came and a missionary, though behind there was also another motive as a soldier. But by the time Christianity came to Uganda, Islam had already come to Uganda almost 40 years, if you can see the divergence. When Mutesa was in power, the first martyrdom to be killed around 200 were the Muslims, because there was an argument that the Kabaka of Buganda should be circumcised, and used the word extremist at that time.
True. Because
they said, minus your circumcision, we cannot what? Follow you. So they were killed.
Absolutely.
So the land of Namugongo currently, as it is claimed, that land was fully occupied by the Muslims. When the colonists took over, the Muslims were taken out. As you know, even by the time the colonists, when they took over power, by 1900 Buganda Agreement, the Muslims were never given land. They tried to put a school around where the current police station of Chipuli is. The school was called Chiwotoka Primary School. Why was it called Chiwotoka Primary School? Whenever you could reach somewhere, it was destroyed down. So the Muslims were never allowed to go for education. Hence, the few who went to Budo, like Yusuf, were told to have them to convert. It was around 1947 where Kakungu, our brand, the one for Chibuli, tried to say Umeya schools also by Ramadan Gava, that is, see that these Umeya schools can evolve. People like Professor Katerega, people like Chigun, the Electoral Commission, people like Gwynand Bank, these are the few that they had to start a school in Okavu to see that the Muslims are not taken away to the other schools. And later on, Chibuli became a center. So when you look at Islam, during the colonial period, Muslims were seen as second generation. The rise of Islam was seen by 1962 when Uganda got independence. Since Kabaka was in Uganda and also close to Kakungu, we also became victims of Obote regime. Then second Obote regime. When Amin came in power, he stayed little. He tried even to unify the Muslims, but less was gained when he formed the Uganda Muslim Council. Then we see Museveni coming into power. When Museveni came into power, yes, the only thing that the Muslims should salute Museveni was the 1988, where Museveni was the Speaker of Parliament, the Deputy Speaker was Alhaji Moses Chibongo, where we are seeing the inculcation or the commencement of Islamic University in Uganda. Many Muslims were able to go to that school, even non-Muslims.
Yes.
The Catholics fought the commencement of IU, but now the beneficiaries of IU, 40% are Christians, the 60% are Muslims. So this, why I'm bringing this trend,
yes,
they should support Islamic finance because they are resisting it the way they are resisting IU. But now when you look in the community,
yes,
IU welcomes a lot of non-Muslims,
yes,
and the majority are benefiting it.
Yes.
Remember, the Muslims were stopped, were being impeded to commence their education in Makerere. Where you see the main gate now, they were hiding in the mosque.
Yes.
The main gate used to be around Boise Road.
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
But God changed what used to be behind to become the entry.
Yes.
And that was very hard for Muslims to join Makerere. Clear?
Yes.
By then. So IU became the only alternative. So the only thing that this government has helped is to give the Muslims education.
Yes.
The communists denied them and all other past regimes. Remember, by independence, we had two people who had degrees. That is Alhaji Abu Mayanja Kachama and Chifeji from Musoka. These were the two Muslims by independence. The other regions had 102 graduates.
Yes.
That could show a very big gap of Muslim education and how they were seen as a second generation.
Yes.
Now that is history. At least we are professors, we are doctors. If now I can be voted as a Muslim to be the chairman of the deans, to be the general secretary, to lead a public university in the north, where majority are Catholics, and I win 2 terms,
yes,
elected,
yes,
that could see the tremendous enforcement, how Muslims have now moved to the best state.
Absolutely, and I think the argument you are making is that again, convergence of religion rather than divergence of religion. I think it's a metaphor that we need to look at. It's something we need to apprehend. It's something we need to encourage, that we have unity in diversity.
I think all regions, if all regions we consider what unites us, all regions are against killing. They talk about speaking the truth.
Yes.
If we qualify, we think on the 10 commandments,
yes,
as provided. I think they unite all regions. And also, Islam talks about treating your neighbor very well.
Yes.
They never say that neighbor should be a Christian, should be a born again, should be all neighbor,
yes,
should be treated very well.
Excellent.
Because Islam says call for people by good character, morals, not by just saying I'm a Muslim.
Yes.
So that way, by treating another person, whether he's a Christian,
yes,
whether he's a born again,
yes,
with a lot of love and respect, is the best kind of Islamic response.
In short, I would like to just summarize before I take Professor something very important that is known of in terms of the Sharia law book that we're discussing. We in it you'll find things to do. You can find it at lubogo.org or sugeneslawup.com or even Amazon, where we talk about everything to do with Sharia law, economic 16, things to do with Islamic banking, the halal product, the structures of Muraharaba, aspects to do with Mashraka, all those aspects. So you may find that book and you could apprehend yourself in terms of those concepts. Professor was talking about the Islamization, the beginning of Islamization, and then the Islamization of Muslims in Uganda. He talked about Sewakabaka Mutesa, who was actually the first person who bundled up those Muslims and took them to Namgongo. Because Namgongo, having been one of the sites where the kings of Uganda used to take people to kill them, the story has it that he wasn't a true Muslim because he wasn't circumcised. He feared, because by then circumcision they used to use what they call reeds. So those reeds was very hard for them. So these other guys who actually accepted to be circumcised were true Muslims, so they despised him. I'm told he got hold of them and abandoned them into Namgongo. All this you can find in the executive mandate, demystifying the fountain of honor, which again I wrote, and you can find at lubogo.org or sugeneslawup.com. Professor, I would like you to take me through a ride in terms of the geopolitics of this country. You are a person who is learned, you have moved around, you have studied in the UK, you have written books, and there is no mean word that I can use that you're one of those who's learned in this country. Tell me something about Ukraine. Do you see the beginning of a third world war, or is this just a playing of simply Mr. Putin's war, like they said?
I think the West monopoly of the media has misled many of the Africans or the world entirely. Because in a political dominance, the more you control media, the best you could be had. When you look at the history of the so-called superpowers like USSR, USA, China, France, UK, these are 5 permanent members. But remember, when they were doing extension, what President Milosevic agreed with Russia to extend up to East Germany. That formation of East Germany was agreed upon. But you could see America going to Lithuania, Macedonia, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and others, which were contrary. And there was an agreement that was made by that time not to extend. Clear? Remember, when Russia tried to put up a missile strategy mechanism in Cuba, Castro, the president of Cuba, was put into a very precarious position. His country was listed among a terrorist, and then the question was, if you don't like Russia to have security or artillery around your border, why would you like to put the same on the borders of Russia? Clear?
Yes.
We know that after the 9/11 September, there was an agreement where Russia supported America in order to fight the axis of terror, as George Bush says.
Yes.
Russia, they agreed on those issues very well. There was an agreement that was also signed by around 2007, which agreement also they agreed that no more territories, no more member states should join NATO. Clear?
Yes.
Now we are seeing Norway and other countries. Remember, the former president of Ukraine, who was in power, who has just left, I've forgotten the name. He was pro-Russia. The Americans tried to make a coup so that he can leave. Clear? They tried to do it also in Lukashenko administration. Russia came in to protect Lukashenko.
Yes.
Then that is Belarus. Clear? Then you could see that the West just want to destroy Russia. Excuse me.
Yes.
Because they want to destroy Russia, they want to see that all other states near Russia could be members of NATO. And Russia could not allow that. By allowing enemies near your border, you don't know your future. So they are to end up into war. That's how they end up taking Crimea first. Now, that is the Crimean annexation. And then the next gap, they discussed the issue of Donetsk, Luhansk, which became a separatist, where pure Russians. And they are being tortured, killed, and Russia complained about that.
Yes.
And Americans who talk about humanity were not bothered. Russia said, now I'll come in to protect my people. That's why the first position why Russia came in was to protect people from Luhansk and Donetsk. Then also to show that the West, that Russia is not ready to take over. Russia is not ready to take American monopoly and dominance of global politics. Now, as we talk, why is America fighting so much Russia? It is not about Ukraine. The other factors. There is what we call reserve currency. Reserve currency is the currency that is used globally in trade. That is the dollar. Now, Russia, Ukraine, Russia, India, Pakistan, Belarus, China, they are coming up with a new currency. They have also come up with what we call an alternative bank to World Bank. Are we clear?
Yes.
1.3 trillion.
Yes.
Now America is fighting in order to maintain its global reserve currency.
Yes.
That is one of the main issues why they're fighting. Secondly, they want to weaken Europe. Because why? By stopping Europeans from buying gas from Russia. Because Russia said, if you're buying my gas, you should buy the gas in bubbles, my local currency. And America wants the gas to be bought in dollars. Are you clear?
Yes.
So now that is also being another problem. Are you clear? They have tried to freeze all the assets of Russia abroad. But Russia is still more powerful because other countries, even Saudi Arabia, are making alliance to Russia. Russia in Africa is becoming more powerful because it never colonized. Most of the weapons that Africans are using are from Russia. They have a lot of trade in Russia. So America also wants now to get back their trade in Africa. That's why recently they called all these African leaders to tell them they'll give them $550 billion in order to support their economy. This was politically forbidden, to tell Putin that where you are, I should have control. Are you clear? Understand the geopolitics.
Yes.
That the West, America wants to be on top, and Russia is also saying no more to be on top. So this is why we are seeing Ukraine becoming just an initial point to see this war is moving on. Otherwise, this war is more of who becomes on top.
Yes.
Also to prove the warfare. You could see Ukraine showing the latest weapons. And now America cannot go to that war direct. Why? It is an enemy to Iran, it is an enemy to North Korea, it is an enemy to Russia, it is an enemy to China, clear? Because of the provocation of Taiwan, where Pelosi, the Speaker of Parliament, ended up going to Taiwan, even after a warning from China. So you can see the geopolitics into the area, and the best way is seeing ceasefire and dialogue. Other than that, because of Russia, the entire world is suffering because Russia is the global producer of wheat, which is the source of food globally to command, which you consume in Uganda, the source of income to the poor. All these are being affected. So Russia has proven it has a power in global economy because an attack on Russia has affected the global economy. And
the challenge we're having right now is that even as we begin to engage these wars between Russia and America, is that there's a lot of arms race now, new arms race that has actually come up. Right now we are told that what they call hypersonic missiles.
The hypersonic missile which can hit and can go up 570 kilometers. This is a new dimension, which has never happened.
Think about this, an hypersonic missile is a missile that travels faster than sound. So imagine that word, by the time you hear this word I'm talking, it has already arrived.
The drones.
The hypersonic missile is a missile that goes and navigates through. It sees it has a target, finds its target, but if it's objected by those anti-ballistic missiles, it will navigate and divert. So these are the things that we're talking about. So the question, and the only three countries, by the way, in the diaspora that have these hypersonic missiles: Russia, America, and your friend China. Now we are worried that even as we begin to muzzle into Ukraine this war, all these entities are surrounding and they're likely to cause perhaps a spark-off. One of your friends who had when we had a discussion with here, Dr. Ismaili Balunya, is actually writing a book with Professor Tash Tanden in respect to the geopolitics of a possible third world war when it comes to the Ukraine war.
It will be a Cold War.
Yes.
And you know the issues of Cold War as it was by 1945. I think the world might not go to third world war, but we might get what we call Cold War because of the assets freeze, because of the economy being not moving the way to move. And this war, it has proved that Russia, because Russia prepared to fight with NATO. And you know America has never fought a war minus getting France, UK, whatever. So them fighting these countries alone has proved that Russia now is economically capable. They have got the finance and they are trained and they are prepared for this war.
And they've also got even now some kind of alliance. For example, the BRICS, they have now, commemorated themselves in terms of setup. So it's not a question now of who is who now.
And the collapse of the UK government, because you are seeing Johnson Johnson out, you are seeing Theresa May out, now they bought this ladies also out, now they have bought this India taking over. Now even UK, which was a shouting dog in the Europe, it is also now confused because UK's prime ministers now, it is also trying to find out the election. So that one also is an upper hand for Putin, because in Europe, it has also problems. After the saga of the Ukraine, gas is too expensive. Now poverty, economic crisis in the West is too high because of the gas. Now the Westerners, Italy and others are trying to negotiate with Russia to find a way forward.
Yes.
Clear.
Yes.
The bourgeoisie under the oligarchs were the best investors in Europe. Now by this war, most of the money has gone out and is now being invested into Turkey. Turkey has become now a center. This war of Russia has made Turkey more powerful because now it is the center of selling the goods for Russians and others. So Turkey, which was a sixth man of Europe, is now becoming a very powerful center economically.
Excellently said. And these are the discussions that we said we're going to be having with intellectuals like my friend, who are people who think outside the box. One magic last question. How are you able, Professor Dr. Shadat, you've been known to lead the Muslim, some Muslims entities somewhere. How do you blend your religion with Christianity? Because you are a celebrated Christian. You are an honorary Christian, I'm told. Tell us something about that.
Yes, I think I'm a Muslim, 100%, but I'm the only person that I'm always invited as a member of the Uganda Christian Lawyers.
Wow.
Every year. Why? Islam, as I gave you a story. When Umar bin Khattab was conquering Byzantine Empire, she told the Muslims, try to clean around the church and make sure the area is very good. Then make a distance from the church, go and construct a mosque. He said, Al-Khuluq, show these people good morals. Show them how Islam principles are. Then they will convert to Islam. A good Muslim is a person who portrays good characters so that the morals can coerce others to become Muslim. I think that's why I'm a Muslim, but I'm controlling a diocese, because Gulu, 99.9 are Muslim. The people I hate, 99 are Catholic, but I defeat a Catholic and I'm a Muslim.
Wow.
Because I've now known how Islam teaches about how can you bring others to Islamic jurisprudence is your character.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful theology. Listen, even the Christians in Antioch, the word Christianity first originated from Antioch. They never gave themselves that word. It was because of the behavior that they said, let's begin calling these people Christians. So I think what Professor is saying here is that our actions should speak louder than our words. We should be able to demonstrate. So in conclusion, listen to this wonderful saying from Surah Taha 114. Oh my Lord, increase me in knowledge. So even as we begin to pursue knowledge, you just heard from the professor himself, we'll be bringing people who think outside the box. And as I said, we'll begin to launch a new book called Rebels in Jurisprudence. And some of the people you're going to find there are people who are movers and shakers of this diaspora. People who think outside the box, but throw the box away. God bless you, and thank you for your attention.